Hi everyone, welcome to the One Stop Wrestling YouTube channel once again. Today's guest comes all the way from Texas. So I'm going to introduce him now. You may or may not know him. Izzy James, how you doing, man? Thank you so much
What's
for coming
up?
on today.
What's up? Hey, Craig. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. So it's kind of morning over there at the moment. How's the weather?
It is Texas, so we just came out of what we call our freeze week, where we have 1 week of actual winter. And so right now it's like mid 50s and foggy. It's a beautiful morning, honestly. Like a week ago, it was freezing cold for us over here. But it's a very nice day. It's 9 a.m. and I just woke up a little while ago. I normally get up around 5:30, but my gym doesn't open till 10, and I forgot that this morning.
Oh man.
So I went back to sleep.
So to put into context of your week of winter, I think it's currently -2 here.
Yeah,
So
it's very different. Like that's why I say it's our
it's a
own.
very
Yeah,
different outlook in life.
yeah. I think the lowest it got here was like 25, 22 degrees. But I
That's
live
all
in
summer.
Houston. I'm closer to closer to the equator since I'm in Houston, so I'm closer to Mexico. So it's a little bit hotter than Dallas would get. Like Dallas was really hit hard. And I think there was like people without power and stuff like that because Texas is not
Man.
built for the type of weather that we've been getting. So it's all about changing that infrastructure, but politics.
So we're going to talk some wrestling.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. You've been doing this for a long time now. I want to say 11 years.
Yep. Yeah, 11
So
years.
how did it start? How did you first wake up one day and go, do you know what? I'm going to be a professional wrestler. And where did you go?
So that's an interesting story because I was always a wrestling fan. My mom introduced it to me like from the day I was born. I got to see it, my entire life, and I was a musician for most of my teenage years, all the way up until about 2021. I played music. I was a vocalist for a metal band. It was like a thrash metal band. And I was working at a camera shop where you test cameras to see if they work. It's like the hunter cameras where they set them up on trees to track deer. And so I would test those, basically just sitting in a room and waiting for them to flash and do all their things. Then I'd look on the computer and see if the pictures were bad. Well, sorry. Since that was kind of boring, I'd get on the internet, and I always played video games as a kid. I played every single wrestling game that there ever has been that is available here in America. And I remember one day at work, I was like, man, I'm tired of pretending I'm a professional wrestler in these video games and playing a professional wrestler. I want to see if there's a school around here that I can go to and actually see if I'm capable of doing this. And so I got on Craigslist of all things and found a group of guys in like 2 or 3 towns away from me that had a ring in their backyard, and they were just starting up and learning how to run the ropes, take bumps, all those things. And there was like one guy who had some experience, who had wrestled in the past, and he was the one training them. And I said, well, I can go there. And I looked at another place, and it was Killer Tim Brooks's training facility, which was like an hour away from my house. And as a broke 21-year-old, I was like, I'll go to the guys who aren't going to charge me anything, and it's only like a few minutes away. So I went to that backyard and started to train with a group of guys. The place actually ended up becoming a promotion and still runs to this day, called MPX, or Metroplex Wrestling. And when I started, it was weird because as a kid, I always knew what professional wrestling was. Like, you get to a point where you're like,
Yeah.
this is all characters, this is all storylines, this is all like the movements, it might be choreographed or planned or however you want to call it, but it's still amazing to me. I just was enthralled by it. And so I took my first bump and took another one, and I took a third one, and I believe, and the guys were like, are you sure you've never done this before? because those were really good. Like it's rare that people bump that well. And I was like, oh wow. So I kind of just fell into it through Craigslist, but it was something I always wanted to do.
That's awesome. Now, you've been trained by a couple of guys, but one of those guys is WWE Hall of Famer Booker T. Through Reality of Wrestling. How did you first get involved with that, and how has working with Booker T helped your career?
So, like I said, I trained initially with those guys in the backyard in I think it was Bedford, Texas, which is in the Dallas area. And I trained with them for a while. I got some chops, and then I did a TNA gut check within my first year of wrestling. And I remember Jeff Jarrett at the gut check was like, how long have you been wrestling? And I said, at the time it was 11 months. And he was just like, wow, like, honestly, you shouldn't be here. Like we should have vetted this more. It should be for more experienced people, because I wasn't good, but I had a lot of potential. And even Jeff Jarrett was like, keep going, because you got something. So just keep going. And then I started training under this guy named Matt Palmer for a while. And he was my initial like real trainer. And then fast forward to 2019, I started to work with Booker T's company, Reality of Wrestling, and started to train with them. And being able to have somebody explain to you the questions you've kind of always had in a way that it just clicks. You're like, if I just had that answer like 5 years ago, it would be, my career could be in so many different ways. But Booker his knowledge is just there's nobody like that.
Yeah.
You're going to go to train with these guys who, they've wrestled for years, but they never really made it. Or are you going to go and train with a guy who's a 2-time Hall of Famer, 6-time world champion, tag team champion? Like, you're going to go that route because that's just invaluable.
That's awesome. I mean, I can only imagine what you could learn under Booker T. As you say, his knowledge probably comes second to none.
Absolutely.
So the next question I'm going to ask, and this is very difficult to do these interviews without ever bringing it up at the moment. So a couple of years ago, the world goes into automatic shutdown. COVID hits, sweeps the world.
Yeah.
No more wrestling, empty shows. How did it affect you when it came to your wrestling?
So when COVID hit, I was actually at the very last Evolve show that ran. It was the weekend that I came home, and immediately it was the COVID breakout, and it shut everything down here immediately. We had no wrestling shows at all for several months. I lost my job as a personal trainer because gyms were shut down as well. And in the midst of all this, I was just starting I had just finished my first semester of college, or I was in the midst of it, and we had to move from in classes to virtual. So that was a big change and very rough because a lot of my teachers didn't know how to do virtual classrooms. And so all this Zoom stuff was very new to them. And I'm just lucky that I was able to keep my A's. And then it was, I want to say it wasn't until like August. Yeah, it was August when we first started having shows again here in Texas. Texas is a red state, and so when Donald Trump was president, a lot of our people down here, they were, anti-mask, they were anti-vax, they were anti-COVID even being real. And someone who suffers from asthma and has my entire life, I'm high risk to COVID, so I don't fall with them. I don't hang out with those people. I wear my mask to this day. I still wear my mask even though I'm vaccinated and recently got the booster shot and all that. But it wasn't until like August that I had my first show back, and what I will say that the good thing for me that came out of that time of being in quarantine was I was doing a character called Unholy Gregory James for 8 years. And I could just never find the next character. I could never find that thing that I would evolve into, because everywhere that I went, fans loved the character or the bookers really enjoyed the character, and it was kind of like a staple of our territory down here. And so when COVID hit, it gave me that chance to really think about changing the character, changing who I was, and if anything, that was the best thing that I ever did for my career, because it's been like this resurgence, and a lot more people see Izzy James, this punk rock kid from the streets who likes to fight, and they can relate to that. It's more tangible, it's more easily digestible, rather than this gothic character who's portraying like the Undertaker, but he's also portraying Raven, but he's also portraying, Midian. It's all these different characters rolled into one. And so with Unholy, it was very hard to digest. And then you had guys like Tommy End becoming Aleister Black, Malachi Black, and he was now becoming the dark figure for pro wrestling. And so that was like, I really need to change what I'm doing. And I developed Izzy James just because I'm a punk rock kid. Like, I grew up playing in bands, and I played bass. I sung for metal bands. I've sung for punk bands. Like, and something about just like punk rock just really speaks to my my spirit, like the anti-authority kind of guy. But yeah, that would be the best thing that came out of it. And then we finally got to do shows in August and September, and then in September my mom passed away. Not COVID, yeah, it wasn't COVID related, thank goodness. But in August we actually found out that she had lung cancer, and then I don't know if it was like stage 3. And so then a month later, she had a pulmonary embolism, just a freak event, and just passed away. So COVID, the first year of COVID was really hard. School, wrestling, work, my mom passing away. That was a very tough year.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many tragic stories out there, but it's nice when you hear at least one little positive that came from the lockdowns. Like what you're saying, you got to reinvent, and that hopefully the world continues to move forward, and it's not a process that any of us ever have to live through again.
Yeah, I really hope we never, at least in our lifetime, see another pandemic like this.
No,
we're still going through it,
fingers crossed, man.
Yeah. And I was actually watching something about the bubonic plague like last week, like a documentary about like how that started and how it, how it spread and how it ended and all that stuff. So I'm sure pandemics, diseases happen. So let's hope that it doesn't happen for another 100 years at least.
Yeah, totally agree. Now, you kind of touched on being in Texas and it being a red state. But do you think the one advantage of that was Texas was one of the first states to start getting going again, and it kind of put like a spotlight on pro wrestling, whereas a lot of places still weren't doing it?
Yeah, I believe that even though that was probably a bad decision, even though like at Booker T's we had shows, but we were doing empty building shows where we would just have like some students sprinkled around our facility, but it's big enough to where everybody's safely spread apart.
Yeah.
And still in masks. So we did that, and that gave us like WWE and AEW, we were one of the only shows like doing those small shows that you could see. That we're technically an independent, but now we have television. We're on the CW in like 6 different states, I think. So we're out there, we're seen. And what I noticed is that in the last 2 years, Texas has blown up as far as the independent circuit. When I started in pro wrestling, which was 2010, Texas was considered the black hole of wrestling because of the Von Erichs and all that stuff that happened with them. And They killed the wrestling scene in Dallas just because of controversy. And a lot of the things that I did in my first couple of years won't be seen by any fan because a lot of shows didn't have a camera or didn't know how to put it online, didn't know how to use social media. Like, I'm barely good at social media. I'm horrible with it. But that's because, I just didn't grow up with that, like as a prominent thing in pro wrestling. It wasn't instilled to me like, hey, get your Twitter, get your thing going. Like, it was like pro wrestling is, word of mouth, network, go to shows. It's the old school way of doing things.
I absolutely remember this.
Yeah. And so now it's, completely different. But because of that, because of COVID, and it now being prominent to be online, a lot of the shows like New Texas, Heavy Metal Wrestling, Loco Wrestling, Reality of Wrestling, there's so many hybrid wrestling school has a hybrid experience, and RCW and all these other shows, VIP, they have this social media presence now, and now everybody's looking at us. And so a lot of the wrestlers that didn't get to work in their own territories now wanted to come here. And so that was something that really helped boost our island, that I like to say, in the independent scene, to greater heights.
One of the companies that came out at the end of the lockdowns, and that was Pally Pro Wrestling. And I know you've done some work there. How's that been?
I really enjoy working with them. I worked 2 shows. The first one, who did I wrestle? Oh man, I have a book that I have all my matches in, and I can't remember who my first one there was. But oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't forget this. It was Josh Alexander, Impact X Division champion. So that was amazing. And it was my second chance to fight for the X Division title in my career. First time was against Brian Cage. So that was really cool. And then I had another match. The second one was with a local guy, but ended up having Charlie Haas come out and blindside me after the match to start a program. And then we're going to be revisiting that, hopefully coming up soon. But March looks like I might be going back to Pele Pro March 19th at Revelations. I've been in talks with them for that. And then moving forward, I think we've already talked about 2 other dates.
That's cool. I have caught some of the Pally Pro because when they first started putting shows on, we were in like national lockdown, and I pretty much whatever Fight TV put on, I was all in. I had to have my life as normal as I could. So it opened my eyes to so many new promotions, so many new wrestlers that I hadn't watched before. And the shows are always great. And I, for one, will be watching when they do the next show in March. So I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah, because y'all didn't have like any shows for like, y'all still don't really have shows.
We've still got very minimum shows here.
Yeah.
So NXT UK moved to BT Television Studios.
And it's like completely
shut down.
Yeah.
Progress Wrestling, which is the biggest independent company in the UK, have only had fans back for 2 weeks. They had been doing closed set shows that had been seen on the WWE Network. But yeah, Wrestling Carnival has begun. But they've only, again, I think they've run maybe 2-3 shows with fans.
Yeah.
So fans for us is just getting back. Although which you're probably going to find crazy, we are dropping every single COVID rule at the end of this month. Everything.
Wait, what?
Rules. So come February 24th in England, there will be no rules. If you have COVID, you can go out. You can go to work.
What?
That will be our rules.
Okay. Wow. There's no like because over
here
there'll
be no nothing. Absolutely no nothing. No social distancing. You don't have to wear masks. You don't have to do anything you don't want to.
That's wild.
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to grow to hate the human race even more than I possibly do at the moment.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I feel you on that one.
I'm fully vaccinated. I haven't personally caught COVID. I know very little people who have had it.
Yeah.
So long may that continue, but I'm certainly not looking forward to the end of the month. It's going to be crazy.
Wild. That is wild. As someone who wants to return not to code, but as someone who wants to return
to normality.
London, yeah, to normality, and also return to London, because I really enjoyed my stay there in 2018. That gives cause to concern, but well, that whatever happens, I guess, and they'll see the ramifications of their decision.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've done a couple of appearances for the likes of WWE and AEW. If I'm correct, you made an appearance on Raw in 2018 in a tag match against AOP.
Yes.
How was that?
So working with those guys was a pleasure. Those guys were really nice. I know a lot of people would probably expect them to be, prima donnas, dicks, whatever you want to call it, because they're on TV or whatever. But they were really nice. We were told it was Barrett Brown and myself. Barrett Brown is now in the LA, the Los Angeles New Japan Wrestling
That's cool.
branch. And that's one of my best friends in the wrestling business. We started around the same time together and kind of grew up in this business together. So to have him as my tag partner for that moment was really cool, because that was Dallas. That was our hometown as far as like where wrestling was for us. And we're in the arena that, they always run in. So it's, a wall of people around you, like the most people I've ever seen. And it's really weird to see people going up like that.
Yeah.
But that was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world, especially with who I was in there with. It may have been 1 minute, 1 minute and a half or something like that, but I made a lot of money.
You were on Raw, the longest running episodic TV show.
Yep.
That's a
the
huge
longest. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The
what
child in me is just like.
What were your biggest takeaways from being in WWE for that day? What did you learn, and what did you see that you've been able to take away from that experience?
Wow, that's a good question. What did I learn? I learned, a lot of people get jitters when they have a match. They have a lot of people will, I gotta remember this, I gotta remember that, I gotta make sure this, I gotta make sure that. And that was one of those moments where Barrett and I have had so much experience in the wrestling business and being in the moment of, this is the biggest televised event we've ever done at this point in our career. Being able to just go, we don't have to think about this.
Yeah.
This is just, we just have to walk out there and do our job. And that was one of those moments where I learned that I was professional, if anything, that any moment where I have self-doubt, because I everybody has that self-doubt. They always wonder. But that was one of those moments where I learned that I'm a professional wrestler. I'm a pro. And as far as like working with the company, I've done some stuff with them since, but I will say the company in 2018 was professional. It's when I look back to being in the locker room and like looking around, everything was running like clockwork. The last time I was there, it was like everybody's running with their, like a chicken with their head cut off, as people say. So it was a little bit different, but it was definitely professional. And another thing I learned is when you're an extra, don't just stand there with your arms crossed in front of your waist, because the refs will come and say, man, you look like you're at a funeral or something, guys. Just be natural.
As difficult as that may be.
As difficult as that may be, just be natural, because like the more nervous you look, the more you're going to get ostracized.
Did you have any interaction with Vince at all during that time?
I didn't have an interaction, like a real, not that day. I didn't have an interaction with Vince that day for Raw, though I was in that gorilla position where you're in that back area where right before they go out the curtain, and Vince is over there in the corner in his desk, and him in the back corner. Then there's Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. That's really that's intense. And then you have all the other people around you, the production people, the refs, the other wrestlers. But I did have an experience where it was another show that we had done. It wasn't the night that Barrett and I were on Raw. I think it was Hell in a Cell, possibly, but Barrett and I are walking down the hall together, and we see this silhouette coming towards our way, and Barrett and I are far enough apart to where we could go around this person, and as that person gets closer, we realize it's old Vinnie Mac, and he's walking down, and he's just being he's just at work, and we're like, oh, hi sir, and boys, and he just walks right through us. And that was our one interaction with Vince. Was sometimes you're told not to talk to anybody, but that was a moment where we're just walking down the hall.
If you see Vince McMahon, you don't know if you're going to see Vince McMahon again. You're going to say hi.
Right. He's like a mythical creature.
Yes.
And so
yes,
to see him down the hallway, to see him down the hallway, almost out of his element, almost out of, in a moment where he's possibly not thinking about work. That's weird.
Yeah,
very weird.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
So last year, you had a match with Chandler Hopkins in a tag on AEW. How did that differ from working as you said, as an extra on WWE?
So there's a little bit of a difference in the sense of it's kind of the same structure. You go to catering, you go to your doctor, you go to the locker room. What I'll say is I know more people, I think, at AEW. I know Sammy. Sammy and I, we started in the same circuit down here in Texas.
Yeah.
One of the matches I had in 2016 was actually me versus Sammy versus Matt Hardy in a random town here in Texas somewhere.
Is that online?
It's on YouTube. You just type in it's Gregory James versus Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy, and I think it's actually on my YouTube page if you go to YouTube Izzy James. But yeah, that I know Sammy, I know Fuego, I know Aaron Solo, I know Thunder Rosa, I know a lot of the people, and so it was more of hey brother, hey, good to see you, glad you're here, rather than I'm in a suit and I'm at work and I better not look the wrong direction, make sure I shake everybody's hand that I'm supposed to shake and all that stuff. And they're more lax. They're a little bit more hey, just show up in nice clothes. It doesn't have to be a suit. Just show up in nice clothes and be respectful. Obviously be respectful. But getting to work with those guys outside, getting to work with Billy Gunn, outside of WWE and this new company, it's one of those moments where you go, man, back when I was a kid, I can go, man, that guy I just saw on WWF or E last week, and now he's on AEW or WCW.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where it's man, now I'm one of those local talents that you've seen on multiple ones, and so that's really cool to say that I got screen caps from those different companies and be able to be hey, I can line that up with Randy Hogan and all these other badly named extras.
That's awesome.
Billy's really cool, and his kids are really nice. I really liked Colton. I didn't get to meet Austin, but Colton was really cool.
Again, I'm going to ask you, did you have any interaction with Tony Khan?
I did.
How was that?
We were actually, he was very, very nice. Very different dynamic than Vince. Vince is, Vince. Tony's a regular guy in a way to where he's he's more accessible. He's in the hallways, he's talking to everybody, and he's even like he's more of an open door.
Yeah.
And we were filming a segment for the online, I think it was like Twitter for AEW. It was a segment where FTR and Santana and Ortiz are in a press conference with
I remember that.
With Shivani, and we are the security people, and we're supposed to like, you know, get involved and stuff. And so there was a moment where I'm standing there and Tony Khan's like standing right next to me, and we're talking about the segment, like, you say this, la 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 la, we'll cut it in post. And Tony's got on this like, I guess Mr. Rogers type sweater that's got Jaguar heads all over it because he owns the Jaguars, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that's a really cool jacket. He's like, oh, thank you. And just like walks out. And that's my one interaction with Tony Khan.
Very different from Vince.
Nice, yeah. But it was more than my interaction with Vince. So I'll say that.
So while we're on the subject of AEW, I did notice that you called someone from the AEW roster out, and that'd be Mercedes Martinez.
Yeah.
Is that a match you really want down the line?
I do want to wrestle Mercedes Martinez. I mentioned that I was at the last Evolve show, right? That ever ran. And I got that because of Mercedes Martinez. So I did a training session down here. It was WWN, and they were doing a scouting seminar. It was at a school in San Antonio, a school I'm not a part of. And I just showed up, you know, I paid the fee and I showed up. And in that situation, I was like, man, it's me and these kids and this other dude, Max, that I know, who's really good, and he's probably going to get the spot, you know. And so they did the seminar, and I got announced as the standout. And so as the standout, I got a free trip to, I got a free ride into a scouting seminar with Evolve that was ran by Gabe and Tommaso Ciampa. And so I got to do that in New York a few months later. And that was really cool. I didn't get picked, but it is what it is. In the seminar I did with Mercedes, we started doing our training. We did our rolls, we did our bumps, we did a spot here and a spot there. And we break for the first break. And she walks up and she's like, how long you been doing this? And I said, at that point, I was like 9 or 10 years, maybe 9. And she was like, yeah, I can tell you move differently. Like this is natural to you. And so we ended up talking throughout the training session, and ended up that we're like, I talk to Mercedes every now and then online. She's, you know, she's a really cool person. I actually got to see her at Royal Rumble in 2020, right before COVID. So I got to see her there, and I was standing in catering, and she like, I felt this tap on my shoulder, and I turned around, and she was like, come here, and gave me a big hug like she hadn't seen me in forever. And that was really cool. Like, now these peers, these people that I like look up to in the business, it's like, man, they're my friends. But really I still want to fight you, Mercedes. I still want to punch you in the face and have you do the same to me.
So I'm going to ask you, because like intergender wrestling, it's not for everybody. It's a bit like death matches. It's either yay or nay. What's your personal take on it?
Death matches?
No, intergender.
Oh, intergender. I'm fine with intergender. I've actually wrestled my wife in a death match. We did a gimmicked death match where it was a good housekeeping death match. So we did like, I power bombed her through an ironing board. She hit me with a broomstick. You know, we had fun with that. But I'm not anti-intergender. I feel we're competitors. I'm not gonna sit here and go, oh, you can't survive a punch from me because you're a woman. Like if I'm in a fight with Mercedes Martinez, with Ronda Rousey, with Shayna Baszler, you're gonna
They're
tell
going
me
to
that
kick
they
your
can't.
ass.
You can't tell me that. You're not gonna tell me they can't kick my ass just because I have different genitalia. Like you're a freaking idiot if you think that.
So obviously, I'm going to throw the name out there. People like Jim Cornette will come along and they will, excuse my language, shit on this kind of product. What do you say to people who are in the wrestling industry but use their platforms to push certain aspects of the industry down rather than supporting it?
So fuck Jim Cornette. I'll just say that it's an old school mentality, and everything evolves. Every single
Yes.
thing. The wrestling business evolves, music industry evolves,
Yep.
television evolves, the brain, the way we function as generations go, everything changes. Like I'm still in school. I'm a film major, and so what I learned in that is that like my teachers' parents from like the early 1900s couldn't look at a music video today where everything is like this, but they would be fine like watching something that's very slow moving. Our brains, it's very, that's simple, that's easy. So every generation changes. And with that, you have to be willing to adapt and willing to accept the change. And Jim Cornette and other people, just, it's like, if you're living in this to hate it, get out of it.
I totally agree.
Kurt Hennig said it best: get in this business to get out of this business. Get in, make your money, and get out, because it's a young man's game, quote unquote. Though age is not a freaking factor, it shouldn't be. But when it comes to pro wrestling, like if you're not adding to it and you're just taking away, like I don't see a point in, well, I'm going to get online on Tuesday and shit all over professional wrestling, the thing that I make my money in.
Yep. Why would you?
Exactly. I actually, I have a funny story about Jim Cornette. So it was, we were doing an NWA show in Fort Worth, Texas, called Parade of Champions, and I believe this was around the same time that WrestleMania was here for the first time in Arlington, WrestleMania 32. And I was doing a show. Jim Cornette was doing a 1 hour like stand-up, quote unquote, or Q&A or something before the show. And the Young Bucks were down the road, I believe, at another, like ROH was running at a different venue, just like 10 minutes down the road. And then I'm on this show that's going to go on in the ring that he's sitting in right after he's done with this thing. And he starts off talking to, with the fans, and then transitions to shitting all over. All these young guys are going to come out here and they're going to do all these flips and all these super kick parties, and they're just going to shit all over the business and lot of this, and just going off. And like, I'm sitting there backstage, like looking through, and I'm just like, you're literally going to shit all over wrestling, and then we're going to try and put on a wrestling show right after you do that. You're a fucking idiot.
I've got no words for that. Why?
That's just stupid. Absolutely fucking stupid. So that's my funny story about Jim Cornette, is just him shitting all over the entire roster of the show that's going to be coming on after him and the Young Bucks, especially because he loves the Young Bucks.
I honestly can't wrap my head around that. I mean, just why would you? Just no.
I think it's one of those guys who is upset that he's no longer being utilized. Like, your time comes eventually, and the tennis racket gimmick, nobody wants it.
No, I mean, somebody might want a nostalgia show.
Yeah, that's where you make your money. You go to WrestleCon, go to WrestleCade, go do those meet and greets. That's where you're gonna make your money now. You're not on TV every week, and you shouldn't be.
I mean, my biggest frustration is now there's so much wrestling, right? When I grew up watching wrestling in the 90s, especially here in the UK, I had WWF, or I could watch WCW in German
Yeah,
because it was only on a German channel at the time. But now you've got things like Fight TV, IWTV, you've got New Japan Pro Wrestling, you've got Pro Wrestling Noah, you've got Stardom, you've got all the promotions in the UK, you've got Black Label Pro from Australia. If you don't like something that someone's doing, don't shit on it. Move on.
change the
Watch
channel.
what you enjoy. It's so
Exactly.
accessible now. It's beyond belief.
It really is. I prefer to watch like I like old school WWF, like in your house. That stuff is so cool to me. Like the matches were ahead of their time, especially like Shawn Michaels and Jeff Jarrett.
Yes.
They had a great match in '95. But I also like New Japan. I love the way they present professional wrestling in their form because it feels more legitimate than like, I'm going to be honest, it feels more legitimate than the majors here. You have the soap operas, like, you know, the biggest of all time, and then you have New Japan that treats it like a sport
Yes.
with points, tournaments. Like I love tournament wrestling. Like the
Who
more
doesn't?
tournaments, the better, because it gives a means to these guys fighting. Whereas some of these places, I'm not going to say names, but some places just put out wrestling matches to put out wrestling matches with no, like, why am I fighting you? Why are we in a match at all? Like,
Yeah.
why am I trying to win? You know? So when I see tournament wrestling and I see points and I see the way they treat those wrestlers over there, it's like, why is that not everywhere? You know, but because, you know, everybody kind of knows what pro wrestling is, you know, we all create our own form of it.
Absolutely. So I have some questions here that are going to allow fans to get to know you a little bit better and how you became a fan of wrestling.
Yeah.
So the first question is, what is the first wrestling show you ever remember watching on TV?
First wrestling show I ever remember watching on TV. I want to say it is either WCW Saturday nights or like the Wrestling Challenge, early 90s, before Monday Night Raw, before Nitro was weekly, you know.
Yeah.
I remember watching the Saturdays because I remember staying at my grandmother's and her putting it on. Yeah, I would have to say I want to say it's actually WCW Saturdays or Saturday
Also,
night.
as I say, we never got anywhere near WCW Saturday night. We eventually got an English, but it was during the Vince Russo era, which
Yeah,
had its positives, but also
right.
had very many negatives.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and there was a dying brand by that time. But
Yeah,
I still tuned in to watch because I was a huge Crowbar and Daphne fan. I just loved watching them, and then I would still watch WCW back in
right.
2000.
Yeah.
Uh, so the next question is, what is the first wrestling show you ever attended as a fan?
The first wrestling show I ever attended, I'm pretty lucky. Because I'm sure most people know of the Sportatorium in Dallas with the Von Erichs, like their building that ran
Yes.
WCCW. It also ran Global Wrestling Federation for a little while. And the first wrestling show I can remember going to live is my grandmother and my mom were going to go shopping, and I was going with them. I was like 3 maybe, and 3 or 4, and I saw the Sportatorium as we were driving down the road, and I pointed at wrestling, and there was a wrestling show about to start, and my mom pulled off the road and they changed what they were doing and they took me to a wrestling show. And I can still remember this a lot of memories of this, like walking over the hill into like over the like little like steeped area to go into the drop part of the arena. And like I can still see the rafters and the lights and the smoke going through it. And I remember looking down and there's Jeff Jarrett in the center of the ring cutting a promo for Global Force Wrestling or Global Wrestling Federation. I don't remember who wrestled that night other than the Renegade was there because he ran right by me in the stands. Who went on to WCW as the fake or the I guess the Walmart version of Ultimate Warrior.
Yes. I believe it was 96, 97.
Yeah, but this I want to say was I was born in 88, so it was like 91, 92, maybe 93 at the most. But yeah, that's like my first wrestling show I ever got to go to live was at the Sportatorium in Dallas. And I have photos of my mom and myself with Jeff Jarrett, Coco Beware, Kerry Von Erich. Yeah, I got some special time in the wrestling business.
No, that's really cool. I can't really remember who wrestled much on the first show I went to. I remember the main event was Roddy Piper versus Ted DiBiase, which was a big deal because Piper was billed from Glasgow and it was at a show in Glasgow, Scotland. So that was a really cool experience.
Really cool. That is really cool.
And I think for some reason, I don't know why, but I remember the Lord being there. And I can't remember why I remember him being there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was part of the show, but that's all I can remember.
Yeah. I'm a huge Piper fan. So like the chance to see Piper billed from Glasgow in that setting, like that's big.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's one I wish I still had my ticket stub because it's really cool to see. I saw Piper wrestle back before he started becoming broken down with the injuries and that. It's a cool moment.
You saw him kind of like at his peak.
Yes. Right. So this next question, a lot of people find one of the hardest questions, but I'm going to push you for an answer on it, and you have to give an answer. Your all-time Mount Rushmore of wrestlers.
My all-time Mount Rushmore. Okay. Shawn Michaels. I want to say John Cena. I know a lot of people would probably disagree, but he put wrestling in a
I don't think you can disagree. I will hold my hands up. When I was growing up, I was not a John Cena fan, but over the last few years, I've got such a bigger respect for his volume of work and what he means to the industry. So yeah, John Cena, you cannot disagree with what he's done.
Yeah, like how many guys can you say went that long for at that level? You know, Stone Cold had a great career, but The Rock had a very great career too, but very short compared to John Cena.
Yes,
John Cena 15 some plus years and at the top all of that time. So Shawn Michaels for being the best to ever do it, in-ring performer. John Cena for what his contributions to make wrestling bigger than it was, you know. I want to put Regal on there because without Regal, there's so much knowledge with that man. Without Regal, we wouldn't have a lot of like Adam Cole was great before we went to NXT, but Adam Cole wouldn't be as great as he is now without William Regal's coaching, along with a lot of those other guys. Like Keith Lee is a friend of mine. I love Keith Lee, but he was great before he went in there. He's even better when he came out of there because of what he learned from William Regal. Johnny Gargano the same way. Tommaso Ciampa the same way. Like all those guys that have been great for the last 5-6 years and really excelling at pro wrestling here in America is because of Regal. In my
Where would you like to see Regal go?
I would like to see him go to AEW or Impact, maybe.
See, I say Impact because I think Impact have got a lot of momentum at the moment. They've recently had Lance Storm. I I think if they add Regal, that gives them the platform to go even further and go on to the next level.
I believe you're right, because like I said, there's so much knowledge with that with Regal, and
Absolutely.
the wrestlers they have at Impact are great already. Imagine what they get, or how great they'll be adding that element to them.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one, we got John, we got Sean, William Regal. I want to say Ric Flair. Just Ric Flair was like that. Before John Cena, you knew two people, Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And Ric Flair is another longevity guy. You know, Ric Flair, his character was always off the wall, bigger than life. And without Ric Flair, I don't think there would have been The Rock. You know, there wouldn't have been that big, boisterous type of person to come after that.
I totally agree with you. I love this question, because whatever names you give, it's not a wrong answer. And you'll think to yourself in an hour and go, oh, fuck, I've just thought of someone.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but I can't take these people off because these people are on a merit. But I want to add this fifth person, and you somehow can't, because you're like, well, who comes off? And you're like, but I don't want to take anybody off because they're all like absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it needs to be like at least 10 heads.
Yes. Right. So another difficult question. Your all-time favorite wrestling video game?
All-time wrestling. Okay. Favorite video game. So that one's either No Mercy on 64 or Here Comes the Pain. SmackDown Here Comes the Pain with Brock Lesnar on the cover. I'm a big person. I'm really big on creative character and storylines, and like I love playing RPGs. I love one-player RPGs. Those are so cool. Like I'm a big Mass Effect and big Fallout fan.
Yes, Mass Effect. I love Mass Effect.
And I'm always looking for the next post-apocalyptic game coming out. But No Mercy had a great branching storyline. It was limited on the character creation as far as like the look, but the move set was so crazy. Like if I'm looking for a new move, I can go to No Mercy and find something that nobody's doing because it's just so vast. And then you have Here Comes the Pain that had a great storyline as well and a better character creation. So those would be my top two. If I'm going with the very top, it's in 64's No Mercy, just for my nostalgia.
See, now I never got to play No Mercy because I grew up as a Sega boy, and then I moved on to Sony, and I had problems with. I did play Here Comes the Pain, but I had problems because I don't know if you'll remember this. PlayStation brought out the purple discs for a while on the PS2.
Yeah, I remember that.
And sometimes those purple discs would destroy your PlayStation 2. It would destroy the lens. And Here Comes the Pain was like one of those games with the purple discs. I went through about 5 copies and about 3 different PS2s.
That's crazy. I didn't even think.
And then I gave up on it.
I didn't know it was the purple. I know like the purple disc was easier to scratch up because mine would just be destroyed at the end of its life. But I didn't know it was like it was causing the lenses to go out in the PlayStations. I had the original PlayStation 2, and then I think I gave it to my dad when my parents divorced, and I bought the thin one like a year later. So I never experienced the lens going, or maybe I did. I don't remember. Maybe that's why I gave it to my dad.
Oh man, but it's something like 2 or 3 PlayStation consoles.
That's wild.
And always 5 copies of the game, and I was like, no, this isn't going to happen. I have to give up, move on. So my all-time favorite is more modern. It's actually 07.
Oh yeah. I actually SmackDown versus Raw '07.
Yeah.
I recently went and bought SmackDown versus Raw '09. The one with is it 9?
It was
It's
a
the one with
DX on the
Shawn.
cover.
DX is on the cover.
Yeah.
I bought it because I got a PS5 recently, and I was like, oh yeah, backwards compatible. And then I bought it and it wouldn't work. And then I read up on it. It was like PlayStation 5 only goes back to PS4. However, my Xbox Series X is all the way through all of the.
Yeah, it's
I'm
absolutely
like,
crazy.
what the hell?
But
So now I
Xbox
gotta
did
buy
not
a
have
PS2
good
again.
wrestling games.
Yeah, now
did you
I
ever
got
play those Raw games back on the original Xbox?
Yes, and they were horrible. Oh, the Raw games were so bad. They were different, people dropping random items that were meaningless.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this guy dropped a beanie. Like, great.
Now I can only think of one game worse than the Raw games, and that's only because it didn't have a ring, and that was WCW Backstage. So
Yeah,
which
I
was
think I
good in
actually have that.
theory, had a great roster,
Yes.
but had no wrestling ring.
Yeah, I think I actually have that on the N64 as well. I had there was Thunder, WCW Thunder. That one, like the controls were bad. But it was when you're looking at WWE or F, their games are like the A squad. B squad is only gonna get like so many good developers and so
Yeah.
many such, the graphics are gonna be and there was Thunder. Then there was one that was it Mayhem, where
See,
it was a
I
little
think
bit more
Mayhem was
detailed.
very underrated.
Very underrated. The character creation was very detailed, or at least way more detailed than their other games. And Backstage Assault for sure had no ring. There was no rhyme or reason to the game. It was just like it's a fighting game. Kind of like WWE, what is it, Battlegrounds or All Star, where it's just kind of like a fighting game. It's not necessarily like a wrestling game.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
But so, final question, and again, it's tough. Your all-time favorite wrestling entrance theme?
Ooh, all-time favorite wrestling entrance theme. I gotta go with what gives me goosebumps, and I got a few. We're gonna have to go with the top and then break it down. Shawn Michaels, as soon as I hear the drums and the girls, like that's my childhood. I'm getting goosebumps right now. Macho Man's song, even though it's just the high school graduation song, but like when you think, like, when you're a wrestling fan, that's not the first thought that comes to mind. I was like, oh yeah, I graduated high school. F that. Macho Man. And then you have for me, not CM Punk's current song by the Cult of Personality.
The Alter Bridge one.
No, the Kill Switch Engage one.
Yes, it's Kill Switch, yeah.
Kill Switch. When I hear it's so like that gives me goosebumps because like, that's just such a good song. And like to me, when a wrestler comes out, there needs to be intensity, and that brings it. And then this is a wild one that people won't expect. Shayna Baszler's theme song, it hits. Like I can put that
really
on.
does.
I can put that
on. It now.
I don't watch WWE, so I didn't know that doesn't register. The song is still the same when she was in NXT. I can put that on for 30 minutes. Like I found one on YouTube where you can loop it, and I found that. Yeah, and I'll put that on for my entire workout, and just it keeps me going. That one, like the rhythm of that song is so good. But if we're going with like the top one of those, like Shayna, CM Punk, Shawn, Macho, and DX's song is so iconic too. I want to say I think it's CM Punk's just because it brings the intensity and gives me those goosebumps.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's always been my time with Triple H.
Is that the one his main one that he used with
Yeah, back
or
in
is the one
2000.
before he got Motorhead?
Yes.
Yeah, when he came out with the different colored lights and he still had China
Yeah.
with him. That one, yeah, that one is really good. I think it's the same group that did the DX theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what they're called. H Block.
Rage Against the Machine.
Was it Rage?
I'm sure it was Rage. I'm sure
Is
we can
it?
look this up.
Yeah. Who did my time? See, we're gonna look this up. Triple H, my time theme. Who did this? Says WWE Music Group. That can't be right. And then it just says Motorhead after that. It does not give me the name other than
I will
just,
find this out and I will get
yeah.
back to you on this after the show.
Now you're gonna rack my brain for the rest of the day if it's Rage.
Well, I want to say a huge thank you for taking the time out this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure. I have had an absolute blast. People are going to really enjoy watching this. I wish you all the best for the rest of the year. I can't wait to see what you do. I'm definitely going to watch Pally Pro in March. Really hope you're on the show. Those negotiations keep going to get you on the card.
Yeah, appreciate that. I mean, this was a pleasure for me.
No, absolutely not a problem. So, as always, for anybody watching, remember, subscribe, like, comment, and also now, do not forget that the first issue of the One Stop Wrestling magazine is now on sale on onestopwrestling.com.
Get that magazine.
Take care, man. You enjoy your day, okay?
Can I plug my socials real quick?
You plug whatever you want.
This is Izzy James. You can find me on Twitter, Izzy James _PW. Same thing for Instagram. If you go to Facebook, it's Unholy GJ. It's an old thing. Just type it in, you'll find me. Not really on there a lot, but the other ones I am. And follow me there. Also YouTube Izzy James. You can find all my matches, old promos. You can find me when I was a little kid.
Izzy, have a fantastic day.
Appreciate you. Thank you. You too, man.